Hey guys, this is my channel Learn with Avi, and today we'll be continuing my latest video on how we should respect birds. Today I'll be interviewing Ms.Colleen Wisinski, who's part of the Burrowing Owl Conservation Program and is a specialist in San Diego Zoo. Sure. So my first question was, how can we help birds?
How can you help birds? Well, I think there are lots of ways to help birds. One way that just anybody can help birds is to learn more about birds. And when you learn about something, usually you care about it a little bit more. And so if more people knew about birds and how special birds are, I think they would care more and want to do more to help. And I think that you can also share what you've learned and try to spread the love and the passion that you develop over about birds with other people. And if you can get more people to care about birds, then that's the first step, I would say. And then in, kind of the more really specific things that would help birds is to preserve habitat. The most animals that are in trouble, they're in trouble because they're losing habitat, and that basically means the place where they live, right?
Like when I was researching on other birds, I found that most of the reason they're going endangered is habitat loss.
Yeah, which can sound really, like a really big problem that can be hard to understand. But when you're thinking about, where you live and the things that you can do, that means things like supporting groups in your area that do set aside habitat or land that is just for nature, just to preserve nature, so that there's habitat for birds and a lot of other animals too. And so there are, groups here in San Diego that are working on conserving habitat or helping to raise money or to do research or to actually set aside land and manage that land. Because one thing too is that some land is better than other land in terms of how good of habitat it provides.
Yeah.
So doing restoration and other types of habitat management can be really important, but they're very expensive. So,
Yeah.
In a practical way, it's mostly going to be about maybe donating to a nonprofit that does that type of work. Or, as you get older, you can also work for those types of organizations.
Like I heard, I saw in your profile that you're helping burrowing owls.
Yep, I study burrowing owls in San Diego County, and I work for the zoo. So we do research on burrowing owls that live in San Diego County, not just at the zoo, but throughout San Diego. And we work with a lot of other groups. We work with a group called the San Diego Habitat Conservancy. So they're one of these types of groups that I'm talking about that sets aside land and then manages the land so that it's good habitat for native wildlife species.
Okay.
Yes, plants are really important too. And then we work with other groups as well that might manage land that burrowing owls can use. We also work with other groups that just that do work that do research or other types of work to help birds. So we try to, we have a team here, but we try to work with a lot of other teams so that all of our teams can have bigger impact.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I get it. Really nice. And let's move on to the next question now.
Sure.
What are we doing that's affecting birds?
Well, we talked about it a lot already, but one of the biggest problems is destroying habitat. So that could be habitat, the land that is used for all of the other stuff that we do, like houses and shopping malls and all this stuff, all the things that we build. So we can maybe do a better job of not doing so much of that. Some other things that people do that they might not think about is around people's houses, they might use things like rodenticides to keep mice and rats and other critters, at bay. And there are other ways that you can keep mice and rats and things out of your food and out of your house.
Yeah, like they're putting pesticides on
Yeah.
their like around the surroundings so the insects don't come, but that's kind of toxic to birds too.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Rodenticides and insecticides. And birds are, for how they're a lot lighter than we are, they have special adaptations for being able to fly that make them a
Yes.
lot lighter. And usually those kind of chemicals are, they can be really detrimental if you get too much of them compared to how heavy you are. And because birds are so much lighter, it does not take as much of those kind of poisonous chemicals to really harm them. So they don't need to eat a lot of either poisoned mice or poisoned insects for them to get sick or even to die. Um, another thing that people do that they might not think a whole lot about is they let their pet cats outside, and cats can
Yeah,
be really detrimental. You might
yeah.
have heard about that.
Bird catching machines.
They're bird catching machines and lizard catching machines and they catch all kinds of things. So one
Yeah,
thing, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So I had this question in like what are we doing to affect birds? So around San Diego, it's only desert. So I wanted to know what are people doing that's affecting deserts?
That's a really good question. And I would say actually that ties in a little bit to one of the other things I was going to say is one big thing that's happening in the desert is that in order to try to help us reduce our carbon output to help make climate change less harmful or to help slow climate change is to put up big solar farms and wind farms in the desert. And so that actually ends up clearing a lot of habitat and destroying a lot of habitat for those really huge, like these giant expanses of solar panels and wind turbines. When there might be a smarter way, like we need to reduce our carbon emissions, so it's really important that we find good ways to do that, but there are probably smarter ways to do that than
Yeah,
bulldozing lots of the desert. We could be putting it on all of our rooftops here, and things like that. There are better ways that we could use
yeah.
that kind of resource.
Uh, okay, yeah, that's very useful. So I'll just write down all the things you said. Just give me a second.
Sure.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
So my last question was, what would the world look like with no birds? Like, what do birds mean to the ecosystem?
Yeah. I think the world, I think the world would be a really sad place without birds. Just for obvious things, like there would be no bird songs. You wouldn't hear all those birds singing every morning, and you wouldn't see birds flying around and get to, just see their beauty. You wouldn't really be using bird feeders. So I know a lot of people enjoy having bird feeders out and watching
Yeah.
birds. That would be gone. And I probably would go hungry without birds because I eat a lot of chicken. So birds provide food for us, like chicken and ducks and other, meat like that. And
Yeah.
then on a more kind of on the ecological side of things, birds play a really important role. They're predators. So they're predators of insects, they're predators
Oh,
of rodents, they're predators of things that we consider to be pests, right? They're pollinators, so they when they're feeding on, if they're a plant eater and they're feeding on plants, they might be spreading pollen around and helping us have plants, which a lot of us rely on for food. They're also scavengers, so they clean up, some of the ick that when other animals die, can be important to have the cleanup crew. Like we wouldn't like it a whole lot if the garbage people stop taking the garbage from our houses, and it would be kind of like that. They also disperse seeds. So some birds eat seeds and or fruit, and when those seeds go through their body and they poop out the seeds, that's an important way that seeds get passed around and moved around.
oh.
They're also seed predators, which might mean that they're eating seeds of plants that aren't great, like weedy kind of plants that we don't necessarily like. So they
Oh.
could be helping control weeds. And then in a like much larger sense, they can be what we call ecosystem engineers, where they actually create homes for other animals. So things like
Like,
nests.
yeah, like woodpeckers. They like
Exactly.
burrows for like shrubs.
Yeah. So woodpeckers can can drill holes in trees or shrubs or things like that and provide whole homes for other animals. Yeah. Or even, some nests might be a good place for other animals to, like mice might use a bird nest to raise their own, to have their own babies. So the nests that they create in many different forms can be good for other animals to be able to either live in or to raise their own babies in. And then they also can be really important for providing nutrients in the just out in the wild. So the biggest one that I think of when I think of that are seabird colonies and the guano, or all of the poop that they produce. And that can be a really important form of nitrogen that is all part of the whole big system of how the planet works together. And they poop and then it rains and that goes into the ocean, and there's a whole cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and they're all part of that too. So I think the biggest thing is that we're all connected and we all play a role, like all the different species in the world, and we'd lose a lot if we lost all the birds that are in the world.
And I also heard pigeon poop is very flammable, so that also helps in the ecosystems,
What kind of poop?
Pigeon poop.
Oh, pigeon poop. Yeah. I don't know how good it is, but it is all part of the system.
Pigeon poop is very flammable. So I think that helps the ecosystem in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that specifically, but that would be something neat to try to find out, huh?
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
I guess just are you gonna you're gonna make a video about what you've learned, and are you gonna show that to your class?
So since it's a recording, my mom is gonna put it on YouTube to spread the news.
Okay.
What we talked about, and then everyone's gonna learn how to help birds. And also I have my own YouTube channel, so I also researched on YouTube and made up a presentation for my last video, which I posted yesterday.
Okay.
So I want everyone to know that birds are important.
One other thing that this might be a little bit, you're probably not ready for this one yet, but there's a really important book in ecology called Silent Spring, and it is by Rachel Carson, who was one of the first people that sounded the alarm about pesticides, and I think in the 1960s she wrote that book. But that's kind of the whole premise of that book, is what would happen if all the birds were gone.
Yeah.
And it was a silent spring. It would be very sad.
Yeah. And also I heard the peregrine falcon also was affected because of the pesticides.
Yeah, their eggs got really thin, and then they would break when the mom, when either of the parents would try to
incubate.
They keep them warm under their bodies, and they would just squish them, and they wouldn't. And there were no baby falcons, which is kind of a problem.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms.Colleen Wisinski, for spending time with me for the interview. And thank you everyone for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button. Bye. Until next time.